Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we're doing another discussion video about Centurion. I alluded to this at the end of the last video, saying that I want to go over a lot of the generic extra deck synchro options that this deck is going to be able to take advantage of. And man, there's a lot of them. Because the deck naturally, by itself, pumps out 8s and 12s. So we can already start with all the best generic 8s and 12s. But then from there, depending on certain variations of the deck and engines you play with it, I'm also going to go over some 9s and 10s that could be very interesting as well, because I do think there are some ways to take advantage of those as well. So just so you know, real quick, for a little of extra context, if you're not like super privy on what Centurion does, their field spell is a card they get through with all of their one card combos. They have like 4 separate one card combos. In fact, the field spell is a one card combo, 1.5. They're all like 1.5, but you draw, so it doesn't matter. Whatever. Semantics. This card says if any monster is special summoned, you can immediately perform a synchro summon using monsters you control, including at least one Centurion monster. So keep in mind, that doesn't say you have to summon a Centurion. It just means a Centurion needs to be used as material. So that adds a little bit of extra context to some of the monsters we're going to go over here. So starting off here, I just want to mention these things. A couple of main deck things that I think makes the 9s and 10s make a little more sense, because the engine itself doesn't make 9s and 10s. It makes 8s and 12s, and that's basically it for right now. So what we have here is Ellich the Golden Lord. Very curious engine to play with this. Ellich historically has loved being paired with engines that are one card engines. We've seen it with Invoked and stuff like that. The Synchro Ellich back in the past. This deck has 4 different one card combos, except they're 1.5 card combos, and you pitch from hand, which even more so helps Ellich, because Ellich gives you a plethora of really good discards, so you're still getting value on those discard effects. And it adds just like an extra layer of like backbone to the deck, and it even adds different leveled bodies, because the 2 main continuous traps that the deck plays that like summon themselves on the opponent's turn are 5. So combined with the level 4 tuner that Centurion plays, we're looking at the potential to actually take advantage of a couple of level 9 synchros as well. We'll look at those. Bistros are also very cool. 2 of your main monsters. Again, every combo goes through actually both of those, light and dark. So Bistros are turned on that way. When you synchro on the opponent's turn, they end up in grave, and then Bistros are live that way. Very, very nice. And, you know, also add a 6 to the board. And you even get stuff like the follow-up that Magnamut adds, or if you just play Drua's Worm, summon Drua's Worm on the opponent's turn, quick synchro with it, and get the extra send, as well as whatever 10 you make. And we all know there's some pretty good level 10 synchros, so they also open up 10s, and then Apophis is another one. This is a level 6 trap monster. It summons itself, and this has really cool synergy with the deck as well, because when this card special summons itself, you can negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of face-up continuous traps you control. I don't know if you know, but Centurion puts their monsters in the back row as continuous traps. So this card adds, you know, super extra negation and protection to what the deck already wants, while also giving you a 6. This gives you synergy with Ellich as well as Centurion at the same time. I think if you play that combo, this card's a definite 3 of in the deck. Okay, so now that we have that context kind of taken care of, it explains why 9s and 10s may be relevant. But we're going to start with the more basic ones, the level 8s. Zoroa is the first one for sure. It's a really cool Floodgate monster that the Magistus archetype offers. I think this is one of the more fair Floodgate monsters, because it loses to back row hate and monster removal at the same time, so it's pretty easy to play around, but it does turn off an entire category of extra deck monsters. So when it's summoned, it equips any other Magistus extra deck monster and then negates all monsters of that type: Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link. Some of them also offer extra value when they're equipped to him as well. And the only other thing to mention is some of them also give him bonus effects while they're equipped to him. I think one of them just pops a back row. One of them gives you the ability to like pop a monster as soon as you go to battle phase with it. And I think the fusion just makes him gain 1,000 attacks, so he gets really big as well. So there's some nice bonus effects there as well. It's a cool card. Then we have Varam, the Magistus Divinity Dragon. This is the other Magistus monster, still a generic 8. It's pretty cool though. So on Synchro Summon, or if it's Synchro Summon and it's destroyed, you can destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. Not bad. And at the start of the damage step, if the monster this card is equipped to battle an opponent's monster, destroy that monster. So yeah, like it gives that effect to him. I don't think you're making him too often, but he's a good example of like what he offers to boost Zoroa for sure. This card I think is so nice in the deck. Cyber / Harpy Lady. It's a generic 8. It's a Harpy Lady card. This card just says when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you can target a monster on the field and bounce it. Very, very cool because all of your Centurion monsters in the spell and trap zone, when they activate to summon, you can chain Cyber / Harpy Lady to bounce a monster. And that's just every single turn. This deck is all about putting your guys back into your spell and trap zone and keep summoning them out every turn. So it means turn after turn, this card is a bounce. I think this card is probably a staple in the deck for sure. Draco Berserker, just a solid 8. Whenever your opponent activates a monster effect, this card can chain to it, banishing it no matter where it is, hand, grave, field, whatever. That's actually pretty powerful depending on the matchup you're in. So this is definitely just a solid generic 8 to play. Scarlet, Red Dragon Archfiend, very, very scary card. Helps the deck go second, helps the deck clear boards, which definitely could be a problem for the deck. I think this is probably a staple as well, just because the deck is so control-oriented that having a big power push card like this to threaten the opponent could be very important. Omega. I don't know if Omega's that crazy, because a lot of times you're only making one synchro per turn in a lot of cases. Is Omega good enough to be the only synchro you make in a turn? Probably not, but it is just a good generic 8, so I figured I'd throw it in here anyway. And then we have a Skan, the Bicorn Goatee. Interesting card. On Synchro Summon, you can target a fish you control and a card your opponent controls, banish them. That's basically it. You're going to have to lose this card to banish a card. But it banishes any card, and I think the way this card interacts is a little bit better than some of the other options the deck might have as far as removal, right? Like the in-archetype 12 can only pop the highest attack point monster. A lot of the other cards you'd be summoning don't hit spells and traps, right? If you summon Cyber /, you have to summon her and then have another way to activate a spell or trap. So it's like in another chain. It's a little bit too late depending on the way you want to interact with your opponent. And so I think this card could maybe see play just because of the way it interacts. It's a little bit quicker than some of the other ones, even if you have to lose the level 8 body, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry. The last 8 I think is Crimson Blader. It's an 8 in certain matchups. You know what I mean? If you make this versus Kashtira and you just run over one of their guys, you probably just win. So it's like kind of funny. I don't know if we'll actually play it, but it's probably a cheeky card that if you can find room for, you play it for the scenarios where it just wins you games. But I don't know how often we're actually going to be playing this card. Let's get to the 12s. Crimson Dragon's insane because you start your turn by summoning a 12, and then on the opponent's turn, you can summon Crimson, targeting the 12 you already have, and cheat out Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. I really hope one of these two cards is banned by the time this archetype drops, because this archetype makes this line under Nib through Droll. So yeah, scary, scary stuff. This card's dumb. Hopefully it's banned. Despian Lulu Lilith. I think this card's actually low-key kind of nice. It's a pretty good interruption. Once per turn, if a card leaves the extra deck, so that means if somebody just summons a monster from the extra deck, you can make all monsters you currently control gain 500 permanently. Then you can negate the effects of one face-up card on the field until the end of this turn. So if somebody summons from the extra deck, you can just negate it, and all your stuff gets bigger. Pretty nice, just a decent interruption. And then also during the end phase, if this card's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, specially light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals, its defense. If you don't know, Primera's attack equals its defense. That's literally the Stratos of the deck. This card just floats into the Stratos of the deck. That's very, very cool. That even opens up like funny scenarios where like if your opponent is somehow on the Dogmatica stuff and they go for Maximus and let you send a card, you just send Lulu Lilith and then start getting your engine online on their turn. Pretty nasty. Cool card for the deck for sure. Geomathic Final Sigma, you can make this guy on the opponent's turn or on your turn, and he is just a towers. Summon him in the extra monster zone and he is unaffected by all card effects. He's only 3,000, so like he's somewhat easy to like clear over for a lot of decks, but I don't know, if you play another control matchup and they can't like out towers, especially in a simplified board state, this card could be kind of nasty. Ravenous Crocodile. Okay, so now we're into the 9s. That's the rest of the 12s. There's obviously not a ton of 12s, as it made a ton of generically accessible 12s over the years. But now I move the 9s. So this is like with Ellich, right? You'd be using one of the Ellich level 5 trap guys to make this. Ravenous Crocodile, very cool card. This would draw you a card on summon, and then it can pitch 2 to pop any card on the field as a quick effect. Pretty nice. Not a bad card, but if you want to play like the advantage game, this is kind of a cool card to be able to take advantage of. And if you draw more Ellich cards, they're good pitches anyway, because they get you more value in Grave regardless. So, interesting card. I don't know if we'd actually play it, but it's interesting. Navy Dragon Mech. When this card's special summon, you can target face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of tuners in Grave. Just straight up number of tuners. It's probably going to be 1, maybe 2 if you've already used a Primera beforehand. Negate their effects till the end of the turn. Not bad. On summon does that. And then if this card's ever destroyed by card effect after it's been synchro summoned, you can target a tuner in Grave and add it back to hand. So it also floats as well. Not a bad card. Pretty good generic 9. And lastly, you have Shenzhen. We all know Shenzhen's float effect. It can also potentially just come back from Grave later on if it's outed. But it's a pretty good floodgate that some decks really, really struggle with. So I figured it was worth mentioning here. Although the idea is you'd only be making this in the Eldritch build, which this card kind of hurts Eldritch. So I don't know. We keep an eye on that. Into the 10s, Barone, obviously. So if you use Apophis, you could like negate stuff with Apophis when it's summoned, and then quick synchro into Barone with it. Or Bistro. Bistro's another one. If you like quick synchro with Drua's Worm, you not only get a send, but now you also have an Omni negate. Very strong. And Ruddy Rose Dragon, I think, is the last 10 that I threw on here. Yeah, because it's good to make on the opponent's turn. Because when you make this on the opponent's turn, you banish all cards from graveyards, which is pretty powerful. It does hurt your deck a little bit, but the deck can recover from it pretty quickly. Like in one turn, you kind of just fully recover from that. So it's not really a huge deal. But it can take away 1 or 2 resources from you. But yeah. Those are the synchros I think matter the most. Those are the cards I think that I'm eyeing the most when I'm looking at this deck. Ellich as an engine, these cards as generic cards that work with the deck as well. And then these are the synchros that I'm kind of debating between. Some of them feel like staples, like Cyber Slash Harpy Lady for sure. And some of those are a little more fringe, you know what I mean? That are definitely more situational. Stuff like the Ascan and stuff like Luluwa Lilith or Final Sigma. But most of the time you're probably just making the Archetype 12. I still expect them to make at least an 8 later on because the deck already makes 8s in engine, but they don't have their own 8 yet, so I'm kind of expecting that in the next wave. But I think they already have a nice enough pool to kind of get started anyway. I really think this is one of the best decks going forward in the OCG. I think we'll see that very quickly here. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this stuff for today. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is there any synchros that I missed that are worth mentioning? I mean, this archetype puts a level 4 tuner that can quick sync on the opponent's turn. Maybe there's a level 3 engine, so we can make 7s on the opponent's turn, 6s, so on. There's definitely a world where some of that could come up for sure. But let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear that. I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching, as always, guys. Subscribe if you haven't yet and you want to see more stuff from your boy down the line. And I'll see you next time. Peace.